All right.
All
We are.
right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 149 of CONSERVATISH. My name is Peter Edgar Feliciano, and that's Feliciano, and I am the host here. And wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, don't just subscribe, hit the bell next to it. And then when it says all, click all, because I have an amazing content. I'm just a content king, especially sandal pictures. Motherfucker. Like, I have some amazing toes. I'm half Puerto Rican, so if you don't like any of my content, you're a racist. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter underscore Feliciano. You can find me on TikTok at Conservatish. You can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/conservatish, or feel free to just Venmo me at Peter-Feliciano. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our guest today is Kay. What's up, man?
What's going on? What's up? What's up? What's up?
You and I have never met before.
Never. This
This is
is
the
the
first time we're
first, very
talking.
first time. Yeah.
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 And then, but
Strangers.
I think we
Complete
were
strangers.
introduced. Huh?
Complete strangers going against tradition, right? Like,
Yes.
just that's what we do, right? Conservatives, we like to go against the grain a little bit.
Why do you
Ish.
think it's always been like that though? Because I feel like when I look at pictures of, I know Reagan apparently was the one who kind of ushered in a lot of the um, more Christianity into conservative, the more like evangelical Christians. That happened because of Reagan apparently. I haven't looked into it. Someone told me.
Just
Um,
weird, but yeah,
but
I
like
get
as far as like pushing boundaries, that doesn't feel like the word conservative was like that. Where along the line was it? Maybe like I don't know, 10 years ago, like
You know what?
when
Can
the
I be honest
super
with
far
you? I
back.
think like not to cut you off. So sorry.
No, no, no,
It's
no.
kind of a
Go ahead.
lag, so you gotta forgive me. I think what happened was people now, like so many millennials are starting to become hip. I actually spoke to a friend who mentioned that he was a black guy from Tennessee. He mentioned that he was a conservative. I spoke to him today. Really funny. And when he mentioned it to me at the time, I hadn't been into politics or anything, but I'm like, well, conservatism isn't that like the racist kind of side? If any, if they had to be a racist side, wasn't that like the guys that are like associated with Republicans? Like, why would anyway? So it kind of prompted
Right.
me to look into it, and I think obviously I'm not the only one, but there's several other millennials who are catching wind. We have a celebrity president, so people are kind of like trying to figure out like what is really going on behind the scenes. What's been going on this whole time with politics? Because I mean, my interest came in at a very pivotal time. And it was funny because, again, like you said, the word conservatism, it doesn't quite mesh into a lot of the
Pushing
crowd,
boundaries.
yeah, the prominent people, the prominent voices that we hear. Um, in a sense, there's like a traditional like upholding, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but everything that we've been doing like so far, let's try something a little different, right? Like that. I think that's kind of where we're at. I think we can call that modern conservatism, if
Yeah, I think
or
modern conservatism.
tradition.
Right. I think the modern conservative idea right now is more libertarian than anything. Just
Yeah.
leave me the fuck alone. Don't tell me I'm not allowed to joke about things. Don't tell me I'm not allowed to say things. Don't tell me I'm not allowed to, you know. And it used to be that liberals were that, or maybe that's classical liberalism.
Right,
But
class.
what liberalism has turned into is poor black people,
Yeah,
poor trans person,
yeah. Well,
poor
I'm not,
poor.
I'm not quite. Well, hold on. Let me speak for you. You're oppressed.
Yes.
It's like, all right, okay, free
So
shit. Nah, I don't like that.
so
But
right. How long ago? How long ago? I definitely want to. Should I go on that tangent now? Fuck it. Yeah, I'm gonna go on this tangent now.
on tangent.
Ladies and gentlemen, because I really want to talk to you about a lot of things. Obviously, this is very off the cuff. That's the way my show always goes. But I do want to share a quick story. I came downstairs the other day to go have a cigarette, and I walk outside, and I realize very quickly that there's a gaggle of people with bikes and walking who are smoking cigarettes and eating pizza, like a Domino's pizza out of a pizza cardboard, and there's like a shit ton, and one of them has a bat, and I'm like, why is a guy taking a bat out of his car? And I look around, I'm like, oh, there's like 75 motherfuckers out on the street. Like, and this is 1 o'clock in the morning. So there's 75 motherfuckers out on the street. And I'm like, oh, okay. So either this is I kind of almost got the vibe like, okay, if this may be a protest, but they all have weapons. There's a couple people with bats, one person with a golf club, and I'm like, okay, if they are gonna go ahead and decide we're gonna just smash a bunch of shit right now, I'm gonna go the fuck upstairs.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, ladies and gentlemen, but mob is not human. Okay, mob does mob. Okay, mob does whatever the fuck mob wants.
Right.
So I was like, fuck this. So I went back upstairs and I went, crouched, not crouched because it's like a pretty high up, but like I videoed some motherfuckers outside. I'm like, this is a protest. I don't think they're planning on just we're gonna do this giant smash and grab type of shit, right? Necessarily. Maybe this is a reaction. Maybe they brought weaponry to react to
I love it. I love the reaction. I love it.
As if they're in, as if, I mean, it's never like it never, I'm not saying it never happens, but unprovoked, cops are just going to fuck with you. Stop.
Yeah.
Dude. Stop.
Yeah.
This isn't.
I kind of want to go on that tangent, but I won't go there. I'm
gonna finish this. So I went back upstairs. I'm videoing these motherfuckers, and I realized I'm like, a lot of these people. Number one, and I'm sure you already know this. A lot of these motherfuckers were white as fuck.
Yeah.
What? Super fucking white. Both. The thing is about these type of protests, and I'm not saying all of them, because for the first maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks of protests after George Floyd died, I can legit say that some people who are rational and, I may not politically agree with them, but they're self-supporting, they have a job, they do this and that, and they were protesting. And God bless you. My hat's off to you. If you feel this is your chance, please do you.
Agreed.
These motherfuckers who a month and a half later are, they're essentially mostly white people who are either unfuckable or can't fuck, right? Or black motherfuckers who are just taking advantage. And I'll tell you exactly why. So I'm watching these motherfuckers, and all of a sudden I see this van roll up, this kind of minivan, and this white bitch comes out, and she's like late 30s, early 40s, right? This is the type, and I think we all know the type. This is the type who might start to be a Karen, right?
Right.
See what happens when you don't fuck. Sorry to go on tangent, everybody, but like what happens? Thank you. What happens? You're fucking for a little while, and you're one of those women. Is eventually you get a cat, and then you get 2 cats, and then you turn into a Karen. Okay, that's what happens.
That's the evolution. Yeah.
That's the evolution. Now, this lady though was I'm like, what is she taking out of the back of it? The little trunk comes up, and she starts taking out. I'm like, oh shit, is that weaponry? What the fuck is happening? Because at this point, I don't know if it's just a regular.
Right. You don't know. 2020. You don't know.
Right.
You don't. Might have been a bazooka. You don't fucking know.
Right. I'm like, is this Molotov shit? But no, it's a giant cardboard thing. She starts passing out, and it turns out to be snacks. She's passing snacks. She's passing out water. She's passing out, and there was trash on the fucking ground outside. Later on, I went and surveyed it, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is because someone else paid for it, and someone else is going to clean it up. Good job, adults.
Right.
But she starts passing out snacks, and I'm like, I started thinking like, because one of the things that like I don't, as conservative as I may be, I don't like the other side, the Q tip, if you will. Now, I'm not saying I don't like it, but I don't jump on every fucking I've never mentioned the word Soros on purpose.
So, okay, I mean?
Like,
see the word treading. I got it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I started going into conspiracy theoryville. I'm like, these people are paying for I'm like, no, they may have just taken the donations that went to BLM, and whatever didn't get sent to Joe Biden's campaign. Okay,
that's
fine.
Usually the case. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Now, the question I have for the Antifa kids, for the Black Lives Matter kids, and a couple of times it looked like they were resting over here. So they had every once in a while, some bitch with a bullhorn would be like, "Whose life matters?" and they'd be like, "Black Lives Matter." And then someone, black men matter, while they're sitting up against the fence, eating snacks they didn't pay for. This is preschool shit. So my question is because it seemed like the black men, my question is to the black men specifically right now. What kind of man, because these were like 24-year-old men, younger maybe, but at 24, you should be a fucking man, right? I'm not saying don't get help. We all need help to get on our feet. We all need it sometimes, sometimes longer.
Right.
But what kind of man takes snacks from a bitch? You know what I mean? What kind of man wants to get treated like he's in fucking preschool
they're
and
not men.
hold his balls and call himself a man?
Yeah,
You know what
that's the issue. That's the issue. It's all about dependency, right? It all comes down to dependency. When I see someone with a bummy mindset, I look at their family, their upbringing. I don't look at the conditions in the government or where their county is or whatever. Because I grew up in a pretty democratic area, right? Queens, New York, Queens, New York. Very liberal. As far as the politics. So if I can make it, if I can do get off well or whatever, anyone else can, right? You got to look at the family upbringing a lot. And you can't always do that just by looking at somebody on the street, right? Of course. But what I've come to find out through surveying and observing online, because it doesn't stop in the streets, or it starts online and then heads over to the streets, and then it goes back. I'm examining who's the what's, and it always comes down to dependency, right? Like in every aspect of it, dependency. What is the government going to do for me? What is the law enforcement going to do to make sure that these people don't? What can you do? Isn't the question that's asked, right? What can you give to your society? I sound like JFK, but honestly, right? The more you give, the more you're going to get out of it, regardless, right? And I'm actually working on an initiative. I don't want to speak too much on it, but working with people in the political realm to actually make changes, so that people don't have to rely on anything or anybody, not carrying on the street, giving out snacks. You know what I mean? Right. Not you or I, and not the government. You know what I'm saying? It always comes down to this, just defeatist attitude, right? Like, I can't do it on my own, so we need X, Y, and Z. So,
right. I wonder what comes first. Do you think dependency or resentment? I know they feed each other, but I think maybe resentment might come before.
Resentment comes in first. Now, number one, I was never taught in school to love America or love the flag. This is not, you don't need to be taught to love anything. But I was quite literally on this conveyor belt as a child, through the media, through what we learn in school about the country. Is always harping on ugly things, right? And they never really quite, incite this fire within us as kids to make a change, like be proactive in being the changes that we want to see. Oh yeah, the government did this back to this year and this, okay, well, what are we gonna fucking do about it, right? Like, what the fuck are we gonna do about it? There's always, and that's an organic, I guess you can call it unorganic, resentment towards authority, towards police in general. So you're just kind of like, all right, so we just hate everything. We're just going to be full-on anarchists. I get it. When you look at the history of law enforcement, not so cute. But are we going to empower what we have in place, or empower the people that we have in place to take over, to make a change, to, reform? Or are we just going to burn everything the fuck down, right? I don't see any progress in all of this. I don't. I see more progress in speaking and talking to the right people, influencing a particular mindset or initiative. But going out in the street and chanting out mantras, for hours, and then just trashing the street and going home, it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything.
The left used to believe, be the change you wish to see in the world. And last, it wasn't last night, it was a few nights ago, when I saw once the lady was passing out, I mean, it's fucking Capri Sun level shit, right? Once the lady was passing out fucking granola bars or whatever, someone puts on the microphone, the same microphone, they were going, Black Lives Matter. They said, replenish your electrolytes. They used to say, I'm not kidding. She said, replenish your electrolytes. That's some faggy shit, dude. I don't care whether you agree or not. Some of the fucking cringeness, I know, because I know a lot of liberals who listen to this show, and I love you for it. I'm so happy. But that's some cringe shit. Yeah. That's some shit where you can't hold on to your balls. We've all done that, right? We've all lied to ourselves, lied to our dates, lied to, oh yeah, I believe this. Can I fuck you up? Like, we've all had that bullshit, right? Yeah. And you do that long enough and it gets easier to do it. And so that's why I actually think, because you said organic or unorganic, I actually think it's organic to be. I think it's because it's for some reason it's in all types of humanity. It's just the culture kind of breeds it out of us. You know what I mean? Like society not breeds. Society puts a cap on that. You know what I mean? To be like, like if you have a little boy, your little boy is gonna be a rambunctious motherfucker who wants to break shit. And society will help curb that shit. If you have a little girl, she's gonna be a mental fucking, demon. She's gonna be a mental Hitler playing games, whatever. And then society will tamp that shit down so that we can all live together, right? So I think it's actually organic, but I agree with you. I agree with you that it's societal.
Just like in there, like I actually went to a Black Lives Matter rally. This was, I want to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And I'll tell you, like at the end of it, I went with my then girlfriend. She's my ex now. And honestly, it was just funny. It was hilarious. Like after, because while we were there, we were just like shouting out, we like literally parroting, these chants, right? That were just shouted out or whatever. We didn't go there prepared. We didn't go there knowing what we were gonna chant. And honestly, most of the people there, like really proactive, white people, right? Like speaking for us, right? Like, okay, well, this whole thing is about police brutality against blacks. Well, first of all, I've never experienced a serious, even remotely serious altercation with the police ever, right? I know some people, right, who have, but the overwhelming majority of people that I know are black, and the overwhelming majority of them don't get just pulled over or harassed by police. My ex and I, when we got home that day, we were just like kind of like looking at each other, kind of like awkward. It was kind of like a game of chicken, because neither of us wanted to like break that, like the whole sacredness of Black Lives Matter, right? So if any type, and that was so brilliant, Black Lives Matter, how the fuck can you go against that, right? Like, what can you fucking say or do to go against that? Because then you're immediately a coon or you're racist or this. So I don't remember who was the one who like brought it. Might have been like a mutual kind of thing where it was just like, yo, what did we accomplish today? You know what I mean? Like what did we accomplish? And I honestly think that I needed to do, I actually had to experience going to these marches and then feeling like, okay, what else can I do? What more? Because there's no way you're going to these marches and going home thinking like, oh yeah, we sure nailed them now. Those police over there, definitely gonna calm down now. Like, I just don't quite get it. Sorry.
No. Now, maybe that's part of the reason why a lot of these motherfuckers have turned into violent now, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, we didn't do anything with the march. I feel like ineffective. And so let me throw a Molotov cocktail at a cop car or something like that. And hey, I mean, from like a bird's eye view, much more effective. Congratulations. That's something was done. Now, but as far as moving us forward, one of the sayings that I've said recently is I would agree with the medicine if the diagnosis was correct, right? So did we get things done? Well, what's things? And what's the solution? What's the medicine? The medicine, the need for medicine, the need for getting things done will be predicated on if the fucking diagnosis was correct. But the diagnosis is not correct. 9 unarmed black motherfuckers died in all of 2019.
And most of the law enforcement involved, they've seen justice, right? So
right. Well, yeah, from the small I'm not subscribing to fucking Washington Post. Like I had to get it through some other channels. But 5 of those apparently actually attacked the cop first. Mm-hmm. And of those 4 that didn't attack the cop first, 2, I believe, I had a conversation with somebody recently. 2 of those had been brought to justice. So, or had been, charges against them and stuff. So
charges brought against them, or something like that.
Right. And one of the things that I've a lot of people who are pushing this idea, like I posted the other day about, I have a series called People of Color Do Horrible Things All the Time, Just Like Whites. And the first 2 were mostly like, hey, because I don't want, I don't like the idea that gets promulgated subconsciously or consciously that that black people especially are just some, they're what are the phrase I use? They're just ambiguous victims. You know what I mean? And then I like, and I actually know humans, and I think a lot about this stupid shit. And so, what happens for me is I wanted to show that, hey, black people, Mexican people, everybody's horrendous and beautiful. It's not just evil whitey. The trope is just so boring and so fucking tired, and it's making dipshits who can't fuck and not get fucked break your fucking windows. Right. So, but.
And I think, and to just kind of build on that a little bit. Now, you go ahead. You go right ahead.
So on this last series, though, I posted about here's a bunch of black people doing the horrible thing of disagreeing with the Black Lives Matter organization. You posted it and stuff. And one of the things that a couple of the black people in there brought up and was the idea of black on black crime, right? And someone, his pioneers actually, Josh, we're in good conversation. We're gonna have another episode soon, and he said, well, I don't like this idea that black on black crime, like bringing up that narrative, is actually from racists who did that, and it's right. Distracting. You know what I mean? Like two things can be true, and I'm down with that. But I think sometimes the reason why black on black crime gets brought up as fuck Black Lives Matter is the stopping the bleeding argument, right? I think the stopping the bleeding is pretty. Now, as far as the effectiveness thing, Black Lives Matter has taken a shit ton of money, right? God bless you. You're buying snacks and Capri Suns all the time, boys and girls. But what if that was put towards the more serious bleeding? If 9 unarmed motherfuckers and yet 7,000 victims of black on black crime, what's more important to put that money towards?
And it goes to priority, right? And I will never, I'm a very forgiving person. When it comes to the media, I'm sorry. It's done. Because the amount of relationships destroyed, you know what I mean? Like people losing their jobs just for sharing their perception on what they seen on TV or what they disagreed with on TV, right? And all of this destruction, all this harm, imagine if people knew about that stat. Yeah, 9 unarmed black people. Not just 9, right? If people just knew that, the conversation would be a lot different. A lot different. But I agree with that. If we focus on, if there's money being, saved up, what do we need the money for? You're going to pay people to not, you're going to pay police officers to not shoot, the black, unarmed black people. I just don't understand the thing is, these people are out there rioting and protesting with no end goal in sight. They just have a narrative in mind. They're going to go outside, fuck shit up, and then come home. And that's it.
Which speaks to childish.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that they do with, and I'm pretty sure a lot of your viewers are aware of this, the sound bites, right? The headlines, the sound bites. I don't know if you've tuned into General Barr's hearing.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, horrible, right? As soon as he starts speaking about something, I'm reclaiming my time. Why? Why though? Because he's going to say certain things that they do not want the public to be aware of. Right? Oh, well, why would you tear gas innocent people? Oh, we didn't tear gas innocent people. We tear gassed violent protests. I'm reclaiming my time. They don't want to hear that there's actual crime, because I don't know if you've seen this, but there's an actual, I don't know, there's a few documentaries actually, so I don't know exactly which one, but it basically describes how Facebook and social media at large, target specific people to get specific news and specific messages toward them. Right. And we don't know this, but it's so intricate, so deliberate. It's just extremely, extremely elaborate, to the point where you don't even know who you are, right? When you're aware that this is going on, you're like, holy shit, now I got to do a whole reset and reevaluate. The issue is the people on that side they don't even know what's going on this side. They don't know the reality. They don't know what we're seeing. They don't see the riots. They don't see that a Trump supporter got killed, literally just for being a Trump supporter, right? They don't see any of that. And it's so bad at this point in 2020 that most people who do finally get a glimpse at the other side, God forbid they don't, see the real juicy shit, right? It's always going to be that resentment. It's always going to be that resentment. It's always going to be that I don't want to hear what you got to say. I've seen it all. I know better than you because Facebook, social media in general, they told me so. CNN, they told me so, right? The funny thing is when people say, oh, you sound like you watch Fox News. And then I say, you sound like you don't watch anything. You know what I'm saying? I know what you watch, but it sounds like you watch nothing. Because, and here's the thing, I'm very big on this. Have your friends close and your enemies closer. So I ask people, like, where do you get your news? Where are you getting your information? Well, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff anyway. So I was like, well, you're not qualified to talk about this. Because I watch Fox News, but I also watch CNN to make sure that I'm on game. Make sure I know where the lies are coming from. Right. You get what I'm saying? So I think we need to have more of an initiative to, seek answers, seek information, even if it comes from, I don't like that source. Well, screw it. It's not about the source. It's about the content. And it's so much cancel culture and I don't want to hear it. That there's no learning. You know what I'm saying? There's no learning.
Neuroscientists have actually said this, that I think it was Strohm, Strohm. He talked about how part of the reason for our social media bubbles, for our echo chambers, is not just the companies doing it for us so that they can make sure we can stay online either happy or angry, so that we can make sure their advertisers will say, hey, look at how many hours this motherfucker has stayed online, pay me. It's also from our individual human inclination to, as it says, eschew negative experiences. It's actually uncomfortable to hear thoughts that you don't agree with. It's actually uncomfortable to try to process. It actually expends mental energy to hear things you don't agree with and try to process it, right? Which is part of the reason why, because I've gotten some shit for, oh, now you're just using black people as tokens. Nah, motherfucker, I'm trying to hold up the idea to pop the bubble real quick, real simple. Since black people are better than everybody, here's a bunch of black people who disagree with your fucking ass. Now can we talk? Can we talk ideas? There you go.
You know
what I mean? Fuck identity politics shit,
I hate it. I get so much shit but you're black. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. I think I noticed.
When did you start knowing that though? When did you start thinking outside the box?
What makes me pretty uncomfortable, I think this is important for me to talk about here. When certain people feel super comfortable just because you're black, that they can make weird comments and then do that thing. Yeah, you know how it is. I hate that. I mean, first of all, you don't know if I got adopted by two white parents. You don't know, right? And it just really reveals to me this toxic behavior, this toxic culture around, you got to look out for your skin color. You got to look out for your own people. Well, for me, it's I've been dogged all my life by people, and most of them were black. Well, yeah, you live around them. Well, there you go. That's the whole point, right? There's some good people and some bad people. It doesn't matter how many people I live with or the demographic, it doesn't matter. Bad people are bad people. So when you align yourself, it just distorts the true essence of being a decent human being, right? You just treat people based on who the fuck they are. This is real.
It's fucking racism.
It's
racism. The exact shit that they say that they're fucking fighting.
They hate and they're against. Then they turn around and do it anyway. Right? It's fucking ridiculous.
I had this experience actually. This is the same thing. I went to California. I moved here from California about 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I went back there last week, 2 weeks ago, to go visit and, say hi to people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting with a friend. He's been on the show. I won't mention his name, but he fucking knows who the fuck he is. And maybe if I have him back on the show soon, I'll talk to him about it. Sitting with this white person, very liberal person, but he stays friends with me. And I told this story. This person on the plane out to the bay is late, is holding us up on the train. We're all waiting, or on the plane. We're all waiting for him. He finally comes in, he puts his bag up, and he's huffing and puffing. He sits behind me. I'm like, fuck, I really wanted to not have somebody behind me, but whatever. So, all of a sudden I hear him on the phone behind me. Oh yeah, I made it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all of a sudden at some point I feel breath on the back, just a puff. He sighs and I feel it. I just feel breath on the back. And when you're bald, you can really feel it. Sucker. And I turn behind him and I'm like, all right, someone comes up, sir, will you get off the phone? He's like, oh, they're yelling at me. I'll get off the phone, blah, blah, blah. Right? Big old Karen shit, right? Now, normally, if the guy was white, he was black. If the guy was white, he'd be on fucking video and everyone would be sharing, look what this Trump supporter did. He hasn't come out fast, blah, blah, blah. And I was telling this fucking story to that liberal friend of mine, and he said, and we were sizing this person up. I hadn't said the guy's race yet. And what did my liberal friend say? Oh, is this white guy, right? I'm like, no, he's black. And he's like, oh, okay. The knee-jerk racism, the knee-jerk liberal, like, it's a white guy, right? And I could feel it in his bones. He was ready to go off on this evil white Trump supporter. All of a sudden, he knew it was a black selfish cunt. He just shut the fuck up. Surprise, racist ass motherfucker.
Yeah. No, let's talk about black culture, man. Like black privilege. Black privilege. Man. I mean, the number one thing to me, like, if I can't say what the fuck I want, you can have everything else. Yeah, you take my gun, take my house. I can't say what I want. Fuck it. The fact that white people can't express themselves, particularly in this, climate, it worries me, because as I grew up and learned about history and what these evil white people did to black people, I was like, nah, we can't have this shit again. And then as I got older, I was like, wow, I don't have to deal with this. The world is actually not that bad. And then 2020, 2017, all of us.
Deal with what would you say?
I'm sorry?
You were saying I don't have to deal with this. What do you mean? Don't have to deal with?
You don't have to deal with racism or white people treating black people bad just because they're black. That's horrible. Being told what to do, not to do, say where to go, whatever. And it's like so many instances, almost on a daily basis now, right? Where it's the exact same thing. I don't know if you've seen the video of this young woman. She was like on a college campus, and there was like an ethnic room or some shit like that. I don't fucking know. And there were a few white people in there, and she's like, yo, PSA. She stood up, and she's like, there are too many white people here. Us black people, we don't feel safe here. And I'm like, I don't call women bitches. But I'm like, this bitch. Like, this is fucking crazy. Like, we're really sitting here watching blatant racism. And there were people in the background clapping, black and white alike. And I'm like, okay, so we've officially reached the point where we fight racism with more racism. We fight hate with more hate. And we somehow expect the world to be all kumbaya. Oh yeah, well, segregation, it's so bad, it's so horrible, until it comes to black people having their safe space, right? It's all backwards. It's just harmful all around. Gotta do away with it, Pete. I don't like it.
And a word to the sensitivity, because black people. I talked about it on the last show, but I feel like if you are held back by fucking face paint, you're a bitch, right? I said that, and these white people who are normally the ones who are sticking up, stop with the blackface or stop with the words or whatever. Like, I don't know any black people. I know some unfuckable cunts who are black, who happen to be black, who would take umbrage. But I don't know any black people who are like fragile with
Right.
words.
Oh yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's
in fact, the majority are like. I'm not saying I know hard motherfuckers, although I do know a few now that I think about it. But like, even the non-hard motherfuckers, they're not sensitive about words. They're not sensitive about face paint. They're not held back.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not at all. No, I come from, and it's funny to go to that point. When I ask people in the hood, I've grown up with some hood motherfuckers. I asked them, why don't you fuck with Trump? Well, he's an asshole. I'm like, you're an asshole. You You get what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like guys, like, when did we stop? Like, we literally used to cut ass for sport in high school. Like, it was you just cut ass. It was fun to just make fun of each other. Then you go home and then you just forgot all about it. Why? Because it didn't necessarily come from the heart. It was just the sport of it all, right? We can go into, you know, how that affects culture and everything, whatever. Let's go through that another time. But the fact that a lot of these same people, that's all they have to say. I don't like him. He's pompous. Oh, he's racist. Well, tell me how. No one can tell me how. No one can tell me how. So, yeah, I just find it really funny. Like, especially being from New York, it's just like, dog.
Right. New York people, especially New York blacks, are kind of the backbone of suck my dick, motherfucker.
Yeah,
right?
No,
where did that energy go? Like, imagine if you were talking to let's call him Jay or Tyrone or whoever the fuck, to be all racist and shit. Imagine you were talking to one of your hood motherfuckers, and in that conversation you said, they said, oh, he's an asshole. Okay. Imagine if someone tried to tell you, Tyrone, what you're allowed to say. Right. And that you should say you're sorry because you made a joke. Imagine the fucking reaction. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to put my hand on a Bible and say, I shouldn't have mocked. No, you wouldn't do that. So why should this? I mean, I get the idea of presidential. He's not the most presidential person. I wish he would fucking tone it down sometimes. But he's not a bitch, and that's kind of great. Yeah. Trump is not a bitch, and that's kind of great.
I love it. You know what? We need more people to, you know, talk shit. We need more people to push people around and, like, you know, just demonstrate what it is to be an American, right? Like, we don't kowtow, we don't bow down to foreign leaders like we did in the prior administration. Like, that's not what we're about. We're about dominating innovation, and a lot of that, it's very human, right? We've become so accustomed to, you know, idolizing and, you know, encompassing all of these politicians just because they speak well, just because they dress a certain way. Okay, well, yeah, he's legit. He's qualified. I love when people say he's not president. Trump is not presidential. Well, okay, what is a president, right? Like, trust me, I'll take him over all of these guys. So whatever fucking presidential is, keep it. Because I'm tired of hearing cute shit. I'm tired of it. I could literally go a whole year not know what the fuck Trump said, but I'll know what the hell he did because I know how to research. It's not about what he does, people. I mean, says it's about what he does. Right. It's about what he does. And when people can literally just look at that, I feel like everything that he says makes up for it. As a matter of fact, with context, it creates a more vivid picture as to what he's doing, what he's all about, you know?
Right. So you got to go in a few minutes?
Yeah, in a few minutes, I've got.
Okay, that's cool. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I did want to. Oh shit! Should we jump into it?
Yeah,
no.
Jump into whatever. I mean, we got next time.
Yes, definitely next time. What do you think is one of the ways to get around? Okay, I'll posit this. Sometimes the way, I think really the majority of the time, the way you stand up to a bully or get a bully to stop doing what they're doing is to say, hey, fuck you, I'm not the one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to say, no, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give you fucking money. I might get punched. I might get rocked right now, but I'm going to stand up to you. And suddenly they realize, okay, this is not a guy I can pull some shit on. Right? Or at least next time, if they do want to, this guy is going to swing back. this guy is going to swing. This guy's going to, all right, what,
So
I'll
like
go with some.
extra punch today. Let me go to the next guy.
Let me go talk to the next guy. So, how do we stand up to these white bullies?
Well,
and how do we stand up to these black lesbian bitches at the head of Black Lives Matter?
you know, it's funny. Like, if I answer this any other way than tell them suck my dick, then people would think I'm a fraud. People will call me a fraud. They would call me a fraud. They'd be like, dude, this is all you do all day. This is, you tell people to suck my dick if they don't. Because look, I'm very patient. Once it gets to a point where there's no rationale, there's no logic, I do it every day. Every single day, whether it's flat earth, whether it's veganism or Trumpism, right? It's gonna reach that point. And once you let people know, like, yo, like, I don't care what you've seen on TV, or I don't care about the traditional, prototypical conservative figure in America. I don't let any of that shit fool you. This is modern shit right here. This is the new, like, we're done. You know, when you let people know, like, yo, I earned these convictions, right? And if you think that a few fucking names that you call me is gonna strip that from me, I'm gonna come at you 1,000 times harder than you imagined. Because, and I actually spoke to a younger friend of mine. He just got into politics, and actually he's 15 years old. This kid from New York, out on Long Island. He said, yo, like, the amount of people who, like, comment and, like, call me names and say that I need to die and all of this stuff because of the things that I post. He's like, there's no amount of that's going to stop me from speaking the truth. 15 years old. And I was like, dog, if we had more of that, like, yo, like, I'm ready to die for this shit. Like, if we had more of that, America would be in a much different place. And I'll say why. A lot of times, there are people in the room that you'll think that all assume the same thing. But more than half of them are on the fence. But because we're all in the room thinking that everybody else is thinking the same shit, all it takes is that one person to move them over to the other side of the fence. When you have people who are going to say, you know what, nah, dude, I actually do fuck with Trump. I'm always that guy. I always got to be the fucking punching bag, right? And then I see a couple other people in the room, they quiet. I'm like, I see you. I see you.
I kind of feel like, stop staying quiet, you dumb shit.
That's how I feel too. But it's just like, yo, like, we're going to get to the point where these people don't control the narrative anymore. The only reason why they feel that they do, and they essentially do, is because they're louder than us. You know, so, yeah. We will reach that point. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into. We need to do episode 2.
Yeah, nah, for sure, definitely. This is fun. This is sure.
Yeah. So, do you have anything to plug, promote, anything?
No,
maybe
just remember the name. Just remember the name. Qué Cassells. My at name is at Qué Cassells, or you can find me on Facebook, which is K, like QUE, like the Spanish word K, and then Cassells. I talk a lot of good shit on there. My content's pretty cool. And, support Pete. He's really good.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, leave a review, rate it, share it with your less offendable friends. And remember, we are 2 people of color. So if your white friends don't agree with us, they're racists.
They're very racist.
Stop silencing. Stop silencing bald people and black guys with hairdos that look like Bart Simpson.
Yes, stop it. Now.
I love you all very much. Thank you so much again, Kay. And we'll see you next time.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Stop.